Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alex King and Daniel Mangana. Today is Tuesday, June the 16th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time, and wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we're very happy because we have a fourth today. We have a special guest that our good friend Dan has brought along to tell us about something called Heartspeak, which is going to be really interesting. But Daniel, you know a whole lot more about Heartspeak than I do, and a whole lot more about our guest. So I'm going to let you do the introductions.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wall. I'm really honored to be able to share with all of our listeners today my beloved friend, Dr. Ann Jensen. Dr. Ann she's wonderful. She really cares, and her tool really has been supporting my community, myself, my clients. It's really powerful stuff. Her grasp on feelings and emotions and how we can really maximize our life experience by stepping into our agency around them in a way that's really nourishing and self-caring and not beating ourselves up. I think it's just great. And what better place to bring Dr. Ann than somewhere where we endeavor to give people their daily dose of happy. And I'm really happy that she could be with us.
That's great. So, Ann, thank you for joining us on the program at 6 o'clock in the morning, because Dr. Jensen lives in Australia. She woke up this morning to do this show. So thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. It's great to be here. Nice to meet you all.
So you got to tell us what Heartspeak is. Daniel's given us quite a bit of a taste of it, but we don't really have a clear idea yet. So tell us what Heartspeak is.
So I'm pretty lucky. I get to actually help people who are suffering with physical or emotional pain. And I help them transmute it, self-sabotaging emotions to self-empowering emotions for lasting relief. These changes are lasting. So
sounds pretty good. Okay. Well, certainly that's something a lot of people need, particularly listeners of ours who are conscious creators, always working on keeping their vibe up. That's an important piece. You got to be in that good emotional space. So if you got stuff in the way, it's nice to have a way to get out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this?
So pretty much all my life, but professionally, I've been teaching Heartspeak for 6 years, doing Heartspeak, and then what developed into Heartspeak for 15, 16 years.
Wow. So you must have quite a list of successes and testimonials and all that kind of reinforce, I'm on the right track here.
Yeah. I'm pretty blessed, yeah. I wish you all could be a fly on my wall sometimes and see the changes in people. They're just profound.
Daniel talks about that quite a bit too, because he works with clients and you can always see it. All of my co-hosts, most of them anyway, are coaches or, therapists or that kind of thing. And whenever they talk about helping a client, especially when I'm looking at them on video, you can just see the eyes get a little bit more dilated, a little bit more excited and so forth because of exactly that. Yeah. And I like to imagine that's what we're doing here too. I mean, I know what we do because we get good feedback as well, but we just don't get to see it as directly as that fly on the wall gets to see it. So tell us more about it. Tell us how does this whole thing work?
Right. So, those times when you get triggered, something happens and you get triggered into an emotional reaction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Heartspeak has a way of softening that trigger. And so next time you meet that situation, you're less likely to be triggered in that way. But it actually goes deeper than that. A lot of this is non-conscious. You don't even know you're being triggered, and all of a sudden you're having some sort of a reaction. Whether it's a feeling reaction, you get upset or frustrated or sad, or it could be a physical reaction. You break out into a rash, or your tummy gets upset, or you get a headache. Or it could be a behavioral reaction. You do something you normally wouldn't do, maybe go to one of your compulsions or addictions. And so Heartspeak can actually stop the trigger, stop you from being triggered. In my perfect world, I always say that, in my perfect world, I think that The universe could throw anything at us and we choose how we react instead of going into an automatic reaction.
And Daniel, you've seen the results of her work directly through the people that you've referred to and so forth. What's been your perspective on it?
Well, even in my own life as well, right? Even dealing with COVID. So, for example, one of my mentors was mentioning the other day. She was like, "Oh, I'm in awe of how you've always been just upbeat and you've actually not been down." It's like, yeah, because I understand that I can have a feeling and it doesn't have to become a dominating emotion. It could be something that I can feel. So I can have a feeling of anxiety, allow it to be what it is, which is just a signal, and then I can pivot into whether it's through changing my physiology or changing my breathing, changing like whatever. I can go through the Heartspeak process and actually step into an emotion that I choose that actually befits what I want from the situation versus being a slave to the impulsive response to the situation, to the
It sounds pretty powerful. So I don't know about you, Alex. I want to learn more about this.
I sure do.
So
okay.
Teach us.
Yeah. How about show you?
Okay.
I like that too.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. So pick something in your world. Oh, this is a really profound one. This is really easy. It's a physical manifestation of stress. You could have some neck stiffness or tightness. This is just one example of how Heartspeak can work. So turn your head right and left. Even if you're watching later, you can do this and it will work. And usually one side is more restricted than the other. Would you say that?
Yes.
Yes. No. Yes.
Alex is so relaxed that, I mean, she could spin her head around 180 degrees and wouldn't know the difference. So, you know.
I didn't notice so much, but you can feel it within yourself. Okay. So touch your neck where you feel the restriction is the most. Just pop your hand on there. Yeah. Okay. Great. And we're just there is some stress related to that, so you can take your hands away now. All right, we'll launch in. So we're just going to pick one feeling out to see if we can shift that energy, which will shift the restriction. All right, so It's related to emotion and urge of resistance. So in Heartspeak, we use feelings, words that represent feelings like fear, anger, and sadness. But sometimes we use words that aren't traditionally represented by feelings, and pull is one of those words. But we can turn it into a feeling. So the feeling of pull is no. It's a drawing in. It's a contraction. It's a no. It's digging in your heels. It's holding on for dear life. It's not wanting things to change, not wanting to let go. And you don't even have to know what you're holding on to. All you have to do is feel that no. Can you feel that no within you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the clearing phase. And in the Heartspeak clearing, you feel the pull until you feel the no until you're ready to let go. And I'll walk you through it. So what we're going to do is you're going to close your eyes, just come forward a bit and hold on with your hands or your arms. Hold on tight and look for that no feeling, that no, I don't want to let go. I don't want to let go. You're digging your heels, be stubborn. Get your whole body involved. Hold on as tight as you can. Hold on even tighter. Really exaggerate this no. Yes. And then let's sit up with your eyes closed, head back, shoulders back, chest out. Really open up your posture. Whatever it was you were holding on to, now let it go. And not only let it go, but feel it go. Feel it melt from every cell of your body, from every corner of your mind. Just feel it go. And when it's gone, there's a lovely sense of freedom waiting to come in. When it's gone, then invite freedom in and feel free for a moment. Be free. And when you feel ready, open your eyes. Okay, and then turn right and left again and tell me what you noticed.
Oh my, it does go farther, doesn't it? Wow, especially to the left.
Yeah, I noticed that in you, Walt. You had a big restriction there to the left. Yeah.
Yeah. I still feel a restriction on the right, but the left is cleared substantially. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So the theory is that we don't know where long-term memory resides, and there's two parts of long-term memory. There's explicit memory and implicit memory. Explicit memory is the facts around the memory.
Sure.
Yep, I was 7, I fell off a bike, had to go to the hospital, broke my arm, blah, 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 blah. There's always going to be an implicit memory as well, which are the feeling part of the memory. So usually if a memory is big enough, it usually has both before it gets stored into long-term memory. And we don't know where long-term memory is stored, but I think, especially the implicit memory, the feelings, I think they are actually, that's energy, and energy can stored. We think it's in the fascia. There's no actual proof of that yet, but we think that it's in the fascia. And by releasing that node, releasing that pole, which was stored, you actually can get some more movement. But it's not just a physical thing. You can be triggered into reacting in certain ways, and everyone's got those. If you don't mind, I'll just show you one more.
Sure.
One more use. Everyone has painful memories. A painful memory, I think, is something that when you bring to mind, you don't feel so good. You feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
It still hurts, or there's still some sort of reaction. And if you're like most people, you have a few of those tucked away.
Sure.
Let's choose one thing. And again, if you're watching from home, you can play along as well. So choose one painful memory and sit with it for a moment. Bring it to mind and feel it. And on a 0 to 10 scale, 0 meaning it doesn't bother me at all. 10 is, wow, it's really bothering me the most ever. Just get that number in your mind. Just you don't have to share it. That's just for you. All right. And then what we're going to try to do is we're going to pick that apart a bit and see if you can make that memory a bit softer for you. All right. Bring your memories to mind, and it's related to an emotion. So these are the normal emotions. So we have fear, anger. Okay, we all know what anger is, but the thing with anger is we get really good at not feeling it and suppressing it, repressing it. So I'm going to ask you to give yourselves permission to feel this anger. Okay, and remember, anger is a big spectrum of feelings. It can be anything from, a bit annoyed to irritated to frustrated, all the way up to enraged, right? So it's going to be in that spectrum somewhere. Okay. So in this case, to clear an anger, we're going to put our hands and fists. We're going to make an angry face, which is a scowl. You can grunt if you want. Hands and fists, close your eyes, and let's go into the clearing part. So feel this anger. Really, really exaggerate this anger. In fact, make it bigger and bolder than it actually might be. As big as you can. Make it physical. Feel it in your body. Feel it in your muscles, in your face. When it diminishes, take a moment and bring it back. And when it subsides, when it seems like it goes away, when it dissolves, just relax your hands and I'll say what to do then. And then start looking for joy on the inside. Start looking for joy in your heart space. Just that little flutter of joy. It don't have to be about anything. It's just joy. And enjoy joy for a moment. Let your heart dance for a moment before opening your eyes. And bring your mind back to the feeling that was painful, the memory that was painful. And sit with it again. and try to become upset about it. You're laughing, Walt. How'd that feel? How's that feel now?
Well, when you were asking to have us reach for an event that was a very powerful, angry event, I kept thinking about different events that I'd already worked on clearing to a degree. I was thinking, okay, what one can I grab that I know is I'm going to feel it right now? And I thought of what had happened recently, and I've done a pretty good job of clearing it, I thought, and I was kind of able to bring it back, but not totally. So I'm not sure I'm really a good test subject this particular time around because I kept reaching for ones I'd already cleared out.
What about you?
How about you guys, Alex? Where'd you get with it, Alex? Did you?
I got nothing.
You got nothing to do.
I have nothing to be angry about. I don't know. I was like, where do I go? I've been here for 36 years. It's got to be something. But I had already taken care of everything, so.
Yeah.
That's funny. It shows what kind of audience we're dealing with here, because we have people who are regularly working on stuff, and that makes it a little bit challenging to find something. What I can tell you is I kind of I started with one and I skipped to another one. I said, no, those are going to work. Then I went to, so I was kind of like jumping as you were doing it. And the one that I went to, again, like I said, it was a recent event. And when you were guiding us through the part where we're getting all tensed up about it and trying to really feel it again, it was interesting because, like I said, I kind of already cleared this one. So I'm trying to bring it up, and I bring it up a little bit and sink right back down. I bring it up a little bit and sink right back down. I was like, come on, you gotta come up here. But it was an interesting experience to kind of re-clear it, because it showed me there was some stuff that I hadn't totally gotten out. There was some energy that was still there. Mm-hmm. And when you were describing the part where okay, relax, I actually let myself stay tense for a little bit just to try to feel it some more. And then I relaxed, and boom, it was like instant relax. So I don't know if my situation matches what the typical person out in the world would experience, but that's what I was feeling. What were you feeling, Daniel? Were you doing the exercise too?
So I went into the anger, and I was like, oh, I'm not going big enough. And so I was like gritting my teeth and really getting into it. And then I saw myself like dancing when we had the joy.
Yeah.
When are you not dancing?
Then it got really ridiculous. It felt really ridiculous going back to the angry thought. It's like, that's a bit silly.
What's the point, right?
Instead. Dance instead, bro. Why not dance?
That's exactly how this pivot emerged from anger to joy. I felt silly. I felt ridiculous. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this is a joy. Mm-hmm. And I was working with a woman who admittedly came to me and said, look, I've been called an angry person. And, I might be an angry person, but I'm not really an angry person. I don't want to be an angry person. So can you help me not be an angry person? So anyway, we worked for a few weeks, and she called me up walking down the street, and she said, I'm just walking down the street, and all of a sudden I felt joy in my heart. And that was a testament to her that, her anger is shifting. So
yeah, that's great when that happens. I mean, this sounds like a fabulous technique, and I can sense it. I mean, certainly I felt it with the neck, and I can see how this is something I had never really thought about in the way that you're doing it here. Because what you're doing kind of what a therapist does or what a life coach does. You bring up that painful thing, and you're actually just physically turning it into the feeling part. They're also tying in, well, here's what the story was, the narrative, and so forth. But you're just saying, here's what the feeling was, and you're rebuilding that feeling for the purpose of letting it go. Because after you've rebuilt it from afar, so to speak, it doesn't have the same power that it had before.
Yeah. You want to know why I don't go into the story? There's
Sure.
actually a neurological reason.
Yeah.
And it again has to do with how memory works, long-term memories. And when we, as I said, when we remember, when an event becomes important enough in our lives, it gets stored into long-term memory. Mm-hmm. And then when we recall it, we need it again, we recall it and put it from long-term memory into working memory. And then use it, or maybe it gets triggered into working memory. In any case, it's in working memory. And then when we're done with it, we store it again. But there's a window of opportunity on the way from working memory into long-term memory, where we can change the memory slightly, where the memory becomes flexible. So Yeah. So we store it into long-term memory again, where it's slightly different. So if we do that over and over again, the memory that we have in long-term memory is actually nothing like the original memory. So we know that memory is inaccurate. It's been shown time and again in research studies that memory is inaccurate.
Right.
So therefore, the facts, the explicit part of the memory, the facts about the memory are probably inaccurate. So we don't worry about the facts. We just worry about the feelings.
Sure.
We try and evoke the feelings as strongly as possible, which will bring up the memory. And then when that's resolved, we then pivot to replace that memory, a preferred memory. Like instead of anger, we put in joy. It's like taking a bad memory chip out of a computer and putting a preferred memory chip in.
It's a kind of a physical take on reframing or pruning or whatever you want to call it. There are various names that are given to it where you basically take an old memory that you want to reshape into a new memory. It's a physical approach to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, we all know, for example, let's bring in law of attraction, because, we've all, wanted things that we wanted things to attract in our lives, but somehow never seemed to acquire. Mm-hmm. And, our friend Joe Dispenza says you actually have to feel it to make it real. So if you can't feel it, if there's stress around feeling it or having it, you won't be able to feel it. So there'll be some sort of a block. So Heartspeak can actually help you feel what you want to attract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like the fact that you're emphasizing the feelings so heavily. I mean, law of attraction theory tells us that's where all the power is. I mean, the attraction part happens on the thought, but the power comes from the emotion.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So that makes a whole lot of sense. Very cool. I like this. And very simple. The best stuff that I've found anyway in all of this whole topic area is the stuff that breaks down so simply. I mean, like with Daniel, for me, the most simplified thing that Daniel has been able to bring to the table, and it's wonderful, is the idea of microshifting. So it's such a very, very simple little thing, and it's incredibly powerful. And this has very much the same kind of thing. Just break it down to what it feels like and really feel it. And just feel it and feel it until you dispel it.
Exactly. And if anyone's had any trauma, and many of us have, it's really uncomfortable and probably not a good therapeutic approach to ask someone to feel the whole trauma. But in Heartspeak, we're not feeling the whole trauma. We're just feeling the anger now. Mm-hmm. Leave the rest. Okay, once the anger is dealt with, what's next? Okay, now we can deal with the pull feeling. Okay, and then we just chunk it down like that. So then this whole trauma gets less and manageable.
So whenever something interesting like this comes up in the show, I've learned to treat it as a situation where it's an indicator that there's someone in the audience who needs to hear it. So you just brought up a very interesting point that there can be a lot of pieces to something. And I'm imagining there probably are going to be people listening in who have something like that has gone on, and that they may still be, haunted by, or however you want to describe it. So what's that, Daniel? Yeah, that's right. They could be working through it. So if they are, and right now they're either doing it themselves or maybe they're working through a coach of some kind, how would you recommend to them that they break it up? I mean, you kind of started to describe that in terms of, well, here's the anger piece, but give us a better idea. How do you break that up?
Right. It's as you said, it's a very simple approach. So you don't try to deal with it all at once. You notice one feeling in it. If you can name that feeling, maybe it's sadness, right? Okay, so I'm just going to deal with the sadness, but there's all these other things in here.
Working through it.
So I'm just going to deal with the sadness. And then and anyone can identify one feeling out of the mix. And then I call it going through the sadness tunnel. You just carry on going through it, feeling the sadness until it lifts or you've emerged from the tunnel and there's a distinct shift. And then you're ready to what we call pivot, which means basically turn your attention from the sadness to something better. In Heartspeak we use peace, but really you can pivot to anything, any lovely feeling, any feeling that feels natural.
Which is exactly what Abraham Hicks teaches for a law of attraction. You do the pivot. It's the same principle.
Actually, that's a really interesting thing that you brought that up, because I never listened to Abraham Hicks.
Is that right?
Yeah. My friends have. Mm-hmm. And it was a few years ago now, and I'd been teaching Heartspeak using the word pivot. And I saw someone post on Facebook Abraham Hicks quote about pivot. You must pivot from negative to positive. Not that I would use negative and positive emotions, but that's the quote. And she said, but she said pivot. So I said, oh, pivot.
Yeah.
She's using pivot. So I emailed her, didn't I? Of course I did.
Of course.
And I got a reply. I asked her when she started to use pivot. It was back in the early 90s.
Ah.
So it was like a collective consciousness thing. I had not heard that before. And so, but I got it from somewhere.
There's another example of how that happens too. What's that, Daniel? Yeah, no kidding. That's exactly what that is. Yeah. That is so cool.
Have you noticed how much pivot is going around? Everyone's talking about pivoting.
Oh my goodness. Right now, especially, we're in, here in the U.S., I've been calling it the trifecta, the terrible trifecta. We've got the pandemic, we've got an economic crash, and now we got racial tensions going on. And so there's a whole lot of opportunity for pivoting going on right about now. And it's a challenge for people. So this is another good thing to be bringing up in a time like this, another way to deal with, because regardless of how intimately connected or distant we feel from those three things, there's such big things right now that they affect all of us, even when we don't realize that we're being affected by it. Having a tool like this is really quite valuable.
We can use Heartspeak to help that.
Talk about that.
So what we can do sometimes is what I do is we get a group together and feel, and this is a personal feeling of the planet's stress or maybe the country's stress. And everyone has a different level of stress that they're feeling on behalf of the country. And then we do the Heartspeak clearing on the country or the planet. And everyone in the group says, oh, that feels better. So it's something that we can do.
And once again, tying into what many people are doing. In fact, Daniel is part of a group that is is doing various kinds of group healings like that. So tying into the group healing thing. I mean, you're connected to, how could you be connected to all this stuff and not be connected to it? I don't understand that. It doesn't seem possible. But you've been doing it all this time. That's great. Where else do you like to use Heartspeak? I mean, we just described two different scenarios. One where people are dealing with old issues, and a second one where there's like a collective thing going on. Are there other places to use it?
Anytime that anything that's related to a feeling. One thing that pops to mind is I've helped children with trouble, who had trouble walking, trouble talking, trouble at school. We just make these things easier for them. One particular profound situation was with a little girl. I think she was 2 or almost 3 at the time, but she had developmental issues, so she wasn't walking and she wasn't talking, and she was very clingy with mom, and mom and her came to see me, and they'd been, everywhere else, and, trying to get the little girl to, first of all, be more self-sufficient so she could leave her at daycare and have, kind of a life. She was a single mom. Anyway, they came in, and again, the baby was on the floor. I call her the baby because she was on the floor. And when I work with kids that small, the mother does the clearing on behalf of the child. Anyway, walk mom through a few clearings, mostly on getting the child to take risks like walk, and also not be so clingy with mom.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we finished that, and then while I was working on the mother, the little girl stood up, crawled over to the chair, stood up, walked down the chair and out the door.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And started chatting with some people out in the reception.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Very cool. I like that story. Manifestation stories are a favorite around here. And whenever we get one that really, really hits the mark, it puts a smile on all of our faces. You just did that. So congratulations. That's a great one. I like that. Yeah. Especially since you were doing the work through the mom, which really shows how big that connection is between mother and child, especially at a young age like that. That literally by working with her energy, you're working with her daughter's energy at the same time.
Mm-hmm. We call that surrogate work, and we, especially in the with feelings, it's so useful because we all share our feelings anyway. We all pick them up. Feelings are contagious. So we can feel each other's feelings. In fact, sometimes when I'm working with little ones, they'll be on the floor or just, sitting there in mom's lap, and mom will be clearing or at least feeling a feeling. And then the child would look up at mom like, how did you know?
Yeah. Well, clearly the child felt it, experienced it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And it really does illustrate it. I mean, I suspect that most moms know that they have a strong connection. Yes. I wonder, though, if they know they have that much of a strong connection. I mean, do you find that, is that like news to the mom, or is that like, oh yeah, I expected that?
Some moms, yes. Some moms will expect it. Some moms will, it's natural, but some parents, or especially the dads, are like, this is crazy stuff. But
I suppose it depends on where someone's coming from and the level of belief that they've got.
Absolutely.
That's what it really comes down to, I think.
Mm-hmm. And also,
people are going to be seeing it through the lens of the stories that they hold. So if someone sees, I'm connected, then they'll be able to tap into that, and they'll be able to accept it and believe it. And I think maybe, would you say even, Dr. Ann, that if someone does hold that belief that they can even get better results from it, because they can even be more directive and deliberate with the energy?
Yeah. Yes. It's in the better you are, just trust the process and, believe that this is going to work. It does. Having said that, I've worked with, some young, thinking of a particular young man with autism. He wasn't having it. He was just not going to do it. And he was really resistant. Anyway, he and his mother had a few sessions, and for their relationship, it was a very difficult, tumultuous relationship. And now I just saw mom the other day, and it's calm. So, yes, even though there might be some resistance, you still can make shifts.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other word that keeps coming up, and you brought it up a number of times so far. And of course, it's a mainstream word where law of attraction is concerned. Resistance. We often become quite concerned with that, because then, we're trying to manifest something and it doesn't show up, and we're told, oh, well, it's because we're resisting in some way. I wasn't resisting anything. Where's my off button on my resistance, But as we learn more and more about this, we realize, there is resistance. It's often outside of our visual range, outside of our direct awareness, and needs to be brought out. And once again, you're talking to an audience of people who have done a lot of work along this line anyway. So we're a relatively low resistant group compared to most that you're going to be talking to. But even so, we still, all of us, deal with resistance on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that, right or wrong, Alex, that's what our conversations are often about here on the show. The little resistances we deal with, right?
Big facts.
Little things like that. Mm-hmm. They pop up. So having that awareness and having that tool to get rid of resistance is great. I want to ask you a question, though, that I like to ask people who are experts in these related fields, see what your take is on it. We often talk about getting rid of resistance, and yet in an LOA conversation, we'll say, well, we don't really want to think in terms of getting rid of it. We want to think of it in terms of replacing it with something else. What do you think of it in terms? What do you replace? Do you think of it that way? First of all, you're nodding up and down, so I think the answer is yes.
Exactly.
What do you replace it with? What do you replace resistance with?
It depends on the type of resistance, and from a Heartspeak perspective, there's several different types of resistances, but you can generally classify them as a pull, like we did, a no, a digging in your heels, not wanting things to change. And again, these are all some of them are non-conscious. So we replace that with a sense of freedom, okay? And then we replace the push, like, no, get out of my face, that feeling of resistance, like, don't pressure me, get out of my space. We replace that with a sense of ease.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So freedom and ease. Yeah, those are good. I like those.
Yeah.
How important is that, do you think, in your experience? I mean, I could point to other LOA type situations, but in your experience with Heartspeak, how important is it to change the language around to here's what we're going to replace it with instead of here's what we're trying to do?
Yeah, it is important. The universe doesn't like a void. We don't want to leave a void. So something will fill the void. So we might as well fill it with something that we want to fill it with. Mm-hmm. So I choose ease rather than more ease.
It's a good word. I like it.
You get to choose anything.
Why not? Go for the gusto. Go for the really good stuff. Yeah. Okay. You guys got any questions? I'm doing all the questioning here, but you guys get to jump in.
I'm really good at doing these like proper grown-up interviews. Me and Alex are here for the comedic.
Not a proper grown-up
interview. Yeah, you're the grown-up. we provide the comedic relief. An occasional reference to a film that relates to the situation. Or TV.
Big facts.
I don't know about you, Dr. Aaron. I sense a little resistance.
And also, as well, I mean, I know Dr. Aaron. I've done some of her programs and I've explored it and done some of the work. So, I don't want to hog it. I want to give you guys the opportunity to get your pound of emotion.
Well, it's fun. It's good. I'm liking it. To say, and I do want to include live streamers because Josie's been asking a couple questions here for Dr. Ann to answer. So she says, Dr. Ann, what are your thoughts on mental diets? Mental diets.
By mental diets, I'm taking that to mean the things your mind pays attention to, and that is so important. If you surround yourself with negative people, it's gonna wear off on you. You really have to, especially now, you have to be very, very particular about what you focus on, like all the news, all the media. There's a lot, sometimes you just have to shut it off. Mm-hmm. You actually have to, again, choose peace, joy, harmony, connection. You have to actually actively choose these things.
Yes, I firmly believe that. And she does too. She says she believes that mental diets are essential. Mm-hmm. She also asks, what are your thoughts on mantras?
Now, there's several different types of mantras. If you're from the yoga perspective, they're in Sanskrit, which I struggle with a little bit because I don't know Sanskrit. I like to know what I'm studying.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah. You hear about the people getting the Chinese cat tattoos and that doesn't mean that, that means that. Well, I want to get what it means.
Right.
So I don't, but then the mantras, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but people do use them and they seem very calming, and they seem to, if you just focus on them, they do. I've used them in the dentist chair. Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
How did that come about?
Well, I never, no one, does anyone like going to the dentist? No, I really like going to the dentist. But you
Of
do.
course,
First off.
Daniel.
I think it's
I like
great.
knowing my teeth are clean. That's what I like.
I'm waiting for, one of the things I'm waiting for most about quarantine to be fully over is I can go to the dentist again.
Right.
Wow.
This went last week. They just opened again. Here.
I'm definitely due for a cleaning.
Yeah. So I was in the dentist chair and I'm like, nothing was wrong, but he was in there a while and I started to get like frustrated or anxious or whatever. So I just started to doing one little mantra. And it just sort of went, I can just sort of get in the zone again. So that was lovely. So I like using mantras.
That raises an interesting point. As an expert on Heartspeak, you must use it on yourself all the time.
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Days does not go by. Yeah. What about you, Dan? Do you use it every day?
Yeah, I don't necessarily go through all of the steps of the process, but even just the philosophies and the way of looking at my feelings, my emotions, and how I'm engaging with them, and also being compassionate for other people as well, and their emotional responses that don't necessarily groove with me. Like, oh, you don't know Heartspeak, do you? So yeah, just being able to sort of be compassionate, and also just in my work, being able to hold effective space for people, to step into empathy, but be able to sift and sort through the feelings and allow myself to share a deeper level of empathy to be more effective in the work without allowing it to shift where I am at the core. So integrative Heartspeak living, I'd say.
Cool.
But I always know that, if there was a time when I was like really in a space, then I can pop to, where are my Heartspeak tools? Okay, cool. and go through it.
Yeah.
Funny too, as you were describing that, I was realizing, and this is probably true for other people too. I mean, Anne, you can tell us from your experience, but I think maybe I was unconsciously doing this at times anyway, without realizing what I was doing.
Absolutely.
I mean, any time that I just kind of would get into, I was angry about something, so I'd like, relive it again and just kind of feel it again. I was doing that without realizing what I was doing.
Nice. And then what'd you do at the end? Did you pivot?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to think about particular.
It happens naturally, actually.
Yeah, actually, well, the incident that I was thinking of when you asked us to do it, I remember I skipped past two others and went to this one, and I stuck with that one. And I can remember now what happened. At that incident, I did express a lot of anger toward this person who was really just doing a number on me. Got out of there as fast as I could. And as I'm getting away, I'm going through the process of reliving it again and getting, I'm on a walking path, on a nature path. And as I was getting away from that was also making me feel more relaxed. And then within about 10 seconds, somebody was passing me the other way and I instantly clicked in the mode, hey, how you doing? And it was all gone. The whole pivot was done.
Yeah.
So
I call that getting reheated.
I did it without realizing what I was doing, but I did. Yeah. So I guess what you're saying is this is actually it's a natural process that we have evolved throughout the millennia. Kind of did it half accidentally, but it was sort of there from a human race perspective, and we just kind of drew upon it without realizing what we were drawing upon.
Yeah, in my perfect world, in my vision of the future, we won't need Heartspeak, actually.
What do you mean by that?
We won't have any stuck emotions or triggers or anything to actually clear or process. I mean, I see kids doing it now. Kids are automatically pivoting. Kids are automatically feeling their feelings and then pivoting. It's really cool. And I think kids are more emotionally intelligent than
yes.
Very true.
More in tune though, because they're functioning with less analytics and more pure emotion, no?
Exactly. They live in the
have all the thinking getting in the way. Get into it.
And add on the fact that so many people are doing work on themselves these days. I mean, not the whole population necessarily, but certainly people in our circles are working on themselves, raising their own vibrations, as we like to call it. And in the process of doing that, it's going to get easier. I mean, that's something I've noticed from day one of trying to be an LOA conscious creator, is that every single day that I worked on it, it got easier and easier to just snap back. So, I mean, it's really unusual for me to fall down into the really low vibrational spaces. And when I do, it's so outside of my experience now. My experience that I have built for myself is so much along the line of the feel-good stuff. First of all, I don't want to stay there very long. I want to get out as soon as possible. Like, we're talking microseconds, And then once I'm out, it's like, oh, well, okay, that was something I don't want. Next. So you're right. There's not a whole lot of time. Yeah, right. Next bus. So there's not a whole lot of time to really focus when you're high vibe like that. And if that's where our planet is going, and I think it is, you're right. That's exactly what's going to happen. Heartspeak is not, I don't think it's ever going to disappear. I think we're going to need it on some level because we are, in the words of many LOA teachers, we live in contrast. We live in a world of contrast where there are things we like and there are other things we don't like. And we have the opportunity at any given time to choose what we're going to pay attention to. And as time goes on and we become more skilled at focusing our attention where we want, it's not like the stuff that we don't want will go away. It'll all still be around. We just won't be spending as much time on it. And it'll almost be like this Heartspeak approach will be so ingrained that we'll still be using it. We just won't think about it. Mm-hmm. That's my take on it. Mm-hmm. You're shaking your head up and down, so I think I've hit a nerve.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do feel that's where we're headed as well. I mean, there's always going to be little, oh, have you noticed this? Have you noticed every time you say, oh, I got that now. Like, I know you said I worked on that and I got that now. Whenever I say that, boom, the universe challenges me, tests me. So you really think you got that now?
I used to be plagued with that one, so I decided to break that agreement because it wasn't really serving me. Like, I don't like that small print that I wrote, so I'm gonna just take that small print out and just be okay with celebrating humbly. Yeah, thank you for helping me to get that. I get it with your help. Here's my scorecard. I don't need a replay.
Funny you should mention a scorecard because talking about how when you get into the higher vibration and you end up living there more often, it's easier to bounce out of those low vibration spaces. Just earlier today, Louise and I had an experience with that because due to COVID, our gardening season got started late. We normally start April 1st and we started June 1st. So as you can imagine, we have a whole bunch of customers who are saying, when are you coming out to our house? Why couldn't you do it before? It doesn't require a mask to do gardening and all this other stuff. So we're dealing with a lot of customers who are quite anxious. And on top of that, we're dealing with staff issues because one of our staff members was injured over the winter and he can only work half hours, and another one, she's getting up there in years. She wants to cut down on her hours, and another person didn't come back at all. So, we got the ads out and we're trying to fill it and so forth. And we hadn't really gotten who we wanted. Louise came to me at about, 1 o'clock, something like that, sat down, and whenever she sits down in front of me, I know, okay, this is serious. So she sat down in front of me and she says, we need more help right now. I mean, I know we got the ads out there, but we need more help. And so long and short of it was we both agreed, okay, let's do our LOA thing. Let's just put the energy out there. Oh my God. One phone call after the other from that point until 15 minutes before I did the show. I mean, the universe just went, boom, here you go. It was nuts.
Crazy.
So awesome. It just goes to show what happens when you get the vibe up. Oh, you better watch out what you're asking for because it's going to come in spades. It just comes and comes and comes. Holy cow.
I think it all comes down to, like when I look at the flow funnel stuff, it all comes down to what you've got the capacity for emotionally, what you've got the capacity for in terms of your beliefs, and what you've got the capacity for in terms of your physical environment. So I can be all good and groovy. I could have done my Heartspeak and really opened up to the emotional frequency of what I want. I can believe it. But if I'm just at home eating Cheetos and watching Netflix, then I'm not going to meet the love of my life, right? It's just not going to happen if I'm not physically doing that. So I think having the capacity to open up to that bandwidth and having opportunities like you've had, where you can see what happens when that bandwidth has been opened up, the blessings that come in, then you can start to, oh, hang on a minute. Well, I've had this physical experience that when I step into this, when I do open up along all levels and I'm very clear and clean on that, then it can literally happen right away. And I think abundance is our natural state. And so that abundant overflow of blessing is what will naturally happen unless we, in our own small print, say, yeah, I'm not gonna check the box for the bountiful. I'm gonna have some lack and some stress, right? Well, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Abundance, that's a great feeling. That
It is a
feeling
great
of abundance. It's a great feeling.
Daniel did a really great piece. It was almost just off the cuff the other day on blueprints, as he calls them, stuff that goes beyond, previous lives and stuff outside of our direct, immediate life experience. Does Heartspeak address that?
Indirectly, it does, because we just follow. Well, we use the muscle test, and we follow the muscle test to where we call it the point of formation, where we go. Where do we need to go to clear this fear or whatever? And sometimes it does go preconception, we call it, before birth, and if people's reality is that they were driving, a different body, then that's where we go. So I don't put my beliefs on someone else in that regard, but it can definitely impact traits that have come through. Yeah, it seems to be like a generational thing or an ancestral thing, or seem to come from nowhere. And oftentimes it is really effective especially when it goes, when we have to clear it preconception. It's really quite a profound experience for the patient, for the client. Yeah.
What's your take on? I don't know how to describe it other than to say it's a human race communication, and actually I think it goes beyond humans. It's all life forms. There are a lot of different theories that kind of tie into how do large groups of people collectively share information without knowing each other and so forth, and how is it that animals are able to do it? How is it that I think it's rhesus monkeys are able to communicate, on opposite sides of the planet, sharing the same information about what just happened 5 seconds ago? I find that to be an interesting, kind of a fascinating topic. I'm wondering, how does the Heartspeak tie into that, do you think?
I have a theory about that. I think that animals and we communicate through feelings. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes when I'm thinking of something, or because I have a puppy, and I'll be thinking, we should go out for a walk now. That's in my head, and she'll go, what? Mm-hmm. And I think that herds of cattle, how do they know? They feel each other. The birds that fly in a cloud, mm-hmm. They must feel each other. I think it's through energy, and I think feelings are energy, and we share that. And how many times have we thought of someone, and then they'll pop up, they'll message us or ring us.
Right.
Yep. That's
a great way to describe it.
I personally think that words and actions are just a medium of communication for energy.
Yes.
It's just a way that we understand the treatment that's going on. I talk about this in my workshops when I talk about like the difference between being grateful, gratitude, and saying thank you.
Yeah.
And even when you look at, I hate you guys. Obviously, there's no hate there. The words don't. There's a disconnect between the words. I love you. I really do, with all of my heart. Like,
Yeah.
there's a disconnect. Whereas if I don't even say anything, I'm just like,
yeah, that feels good.
right? It's, I don't know. I agree. Anyway, words and all of that stuff. I think we just got more primitive over time as we've gotten older. Right? We get caught up in all this life stuff and lose that connection to the true nature. Even when you look at the spectrum of light, the bit that we perceive of our senses is that, and then the whole of it is all of that. And we're talking about words and actions here, and the feelings are happening out there. When we look at our being, the energetic body extends out way beyond the physical and then connects and merges in with reality as a whole. And that's the fullness of our being, and that's where the communication is really happening.
Yes.
And there's a subtlety there that we can tap into deliberately. I think tools like Heartspeak enable us to relearn that language that we truly speak, both with ourselves and with others, and with the universe as a whole.
Yes. I often challenge people to not put words to feelings, because it has a specific meaning to someone. So, but if you say I'm scared, but there's this whole big other thing, yeah, you could be scared, but there's a lot more to it than that. So instead of labeling it, sometimes I just ask people to feel it, whatever it is.
I think you just answered for me a question that I've had in the back of my mind for some time, which is, how long am I going to do this podcast? Because my intention is really to do it probably for the rest of my life. But you just pointed out to me that I'll probably do it until we get to the point where we really don't need the words anymore. And then it'll just be an energy. In which case, instead of calling it a podcast, it'll be an entercast.
An entercast. We're just going to sit here.
Yeah, we'll zone.
And every once in a while.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of coughing, a lot of but not a whole lot of words. Hey, before we run out of time, I want to make sure we do our promotional announcements. Included, of course, is the fact that I know I keep saying this. We've been saying it for a few weeks now, but I really, really am close to launching this app. I'm like down to the last touches here. So that's going to be coming out in the next few days. So I can't quite say to get the app from the Google Play Store or from the Apple App Store. But if you're listening to this down the line, yeah, you can do that. By now, by that point, yes, you'll be able to get it. In the meantime, though, for those of you who are listening to this fresh off the recording studio, I want you to make sure that you subscribe the old-fashioned way to LOA Today, and then you'll be right on top of things when we make the announcement that the app is available, that you can listen to the podcast that way. So become a subscriber, simple to do. It's going to be even simpler once the app is available, but even right now, all you have to do is go to the homepage, loatoday.net, and you will find instructions on how to do it at the top of the page. That's also where you'll find how to do the app too later on. On top of that, also, you want to make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend, as our friend Alex Lacey said. You want to make sure this gets passed around, more and more people finding out about their daily dose of happy. And you get to check us out on YouTube, because we do this live streaming to YouTube like we're doing today. And that's where our wonderful Alex King comes in to tell us exactly how to do it.
Okay. So what you want to do is go to YouTube, search LOA Today podcast videos, and once you see our smiling faces, you click down below to the red subscribe button. Next to the red subscribe button, there's a little silver bell. Click that little silver bell so you will always be notified when we are live.
Doesn't she do that well, Ann? I mean, isn't that great? She could be on like a leading television network as far as I'm concerned. You know?
I mean, speak it into existence, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's what we're doing, right? That's what we're doing. We're helping you get there. You're going to be there.
It's a matter of time.
That's
it. Yeah.
So, good stuff. Well, hey, this has been great. Thank you for introducing us to Heartspeak. Thank you for giving us a demonstration, teaching us how to go about doing it. I imagine there are resources that we can draw upon to learn how to do this even more, probably books and websites and so forth. So tell us about that. How do they find out more about Dr. Ann Jensen and about Heartspeak?
Yes, you can go to our heartspeak.com website. We're in the middle of revamping it, so hopefully by the end of the month it will be new. but it's there. There's lots of information about Heartspeak, what's going on. We have more, of course, online courses. We have video courses. We have meetups that we use clearings. It's anyone can come on and get free.
Okay. And Daniel, since you brought Dr. Ann to us, I'm going to leave the final closing thought to you. So what's the takeaway for today's show?
No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah. Drum roll, please.
No pressure. No pressure. No.
Well, now you just ruined it. I think feelings are the way that we connect to energy, and energy is what we really are. So get to know your feelings and get to know yourself.
I like those final words.
He always breaks it down so simply.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think he should become your spokesman, Ann, because he does it so well.
He already is my spokesman in some ways.
That's true, yeah.
That's how she got here.
Good point. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
I'm a fan of good stuff and people out there doing good things to help people live more abundant, joyful, purpose-driven lives. And for me, Dr. Ann is just a true embodiment of that, and I love it dearly. And
as wonderful as this has been, the pattern continues because we've got another couple of guests coming in, including one this Thursday, right? I mean, I think we confirmed Thursday. You want to give people a clue as to who's coming on Thursday?
Is it DS?
I think it's the other one. Yeah.
P.
That one. Now, for those of you who are not yet high vibe enough to pick it up without here's the translation.
So Dr. Ann's taken us into our emotions, into our feelings, and Paul Reed's going to take us into the mind and NLP and how we can start communicating with our mind more effectively and tapping into our daily dose of happy that way too.
Okay, so good stuff.
I like the transition.
Yeah. And that was LOA planned. The universe planned that one.
Yeah.
So we just let it fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
Work.
Divinely ordered.
So great. Thank you once again, Dr. Ann Jensen. We really appreciate you taking the time, teaching us stuff, giving us a demonstration. So thank you for coming by. We appreciate it. We're going to have you back again sometime too. So, kind of mark it on your calendar at some point. Okay.
Thank you.
Love to have you. Thank you guys. As usual, you guys you fulfilled your duty. You were your comedic selves. You brought the energy up. So well done to both of you. And of course, Daniel brings in everything else that goes along with it. Daniel's like a jack of all trades. He just has all of it going at the same time. So.
Dan of all trades. Dan of all trades. Get my name right.
When he's doing his tangents, I mean, they're great. Alex and I basically are trying to keep up, So thank you guys. Thank you live streamers, and especially thank you to all of our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.